I'm grateful to be here for this new moon yin practice. Looking forward to sharing it with you and going inside to reflect over the next hour or so. So, new moon, great time to do yin. There's yin energy with the new moon. Time to rest and reflect. And I invite you, before we begin, to take a moment to ponder the following questions. And if you have a journal, you could even write out in your journal the answers to the following reflections so that you go into your practice with this state of awareness around what it is that you're ready to release, to let go of, so that we can intentionally make space for what we hope to create. So the first question is, what's currently draining your energy? The second question is, what have you said yes to that's actually a no? What are you ready to let go of in this season with this new moon? Is it a thought process, a relationship, a thing, a habit, a way of being? So I encourage you to press pause on the video and journal for about 5 minutes, longer if you feel, and see what comes up as you reflect. And then when you're ready to come back into your practice, we'll go on and into our first posture. So the first posture will be dangling pose. For dangling, you can just start on your feet here and in your own time, make your way to come onto your feet. I guess I should have said you might need a blanket and 2 blocks. You will need 2 blocks for the practice. So if you're halfway into this shape, just double check that you have that. Okay. Once you've gotten into a position where you're on your feet, take a moment to flat back. You might bend your knees, lift the chest, lengthen through the crown of the head, and then hinge from the hips and drop your head at the bottom. So remember, we will be in these postures for about 3 to 6 minutes. And so we're looking to arrive in a state of comfort as far as being able to stay. And we're meeting that with sensation, an awareness of sensation of something is opening, something is happening. And so right now, if you feel like you're gripping in your low back and you can't quite let go, maybe you just need to bend your knees, or maybe you need to bring your hands on top of blocks so that you're a little bit higher up. You can bend your knees generously for this posture. And please do so. This will allow your neck to elongate and to eventually relax. Bring your weight over the center of your foot. And when you're ready to settle in, arrive with a full cycle of breath. So for some of us, we might already be feeling things in the back side of our legs, maybe even down to our feet. And let that be an invitation to follow the changes in the body and the effects of this posture over the next 3 minutes.
And this posture is deeply connected to the sense of letting go. You could imagine the things that you journaled about or reflected about that you're ready to release, dripping off the back of your spine, down through the crown of your head, sending them off with exhales that are soft and fluid. Where can you let go just a little bit more right now? Is it in your jaw? Is it in your forehead? Is it around the rib cage? Check in with yourself. What are you holding on to that you could let go of? Is the sensation traveling, and if so, where to? Let's take 3 final breaths in this posture in your own time. Full breath in, full breath out. Very gently to come out of this, bend your knees and walk your hands forward and set your knees down on the ground. You can then lean back. Notice the bottoms of the feet and the opening that's happening there now that we've given some space to the superficial back line. And next we'll go into child's pose with a thread the needle variation. So you could bring your knees onto a blanket if you know that feels best for your knees. Or you could have it ready to catch your head, since we'll gaze to the side. One thought here is you could always have a bolster, right? Imagine that I have a bolster here, and I could just lay with my head to one side and the other. That's going to be a modification. So I'll take you into the child's pose with the thread the needle. You'll thread your right arm underneath your left, and then bring your head down towards the ground or to a blanket. I'm just going to make sure I'm not compressing the mic too much so you can still hear me. And then your left arm can rest right over the right arm. Once you're ready, soften the breath. Arrive in this posture. And come back to the question of what are some of the things that you're saying yes to in your life that are actually a no thank you. A no, I've changed my mind. And just use the question as the invitation to bring that into your awareness. There's no judgment here. There's not even a need to change it or fix it. Really just acknowledge what those things are. Bring them to the light. And slowly let the reflection fall away. And connect to the sensation that's building. Three closing breaths when you're ready. Inhale and exhale. Expand through the sides of your ribs as you breathe in 2 more times. And soften around the sides of the waist and the stomach as you exhale. In order to come up and come out of this, bring your left hand to the mat so you can press down into it. Pull yourself up. You can lean, and then maybe if you're feeling like you're tingling through your toes, you can come forward into tabletop position and just stretch out one leg. And then the other. You could do it twice, you could do it once. And when you're ready to go to the other side, toes together, knees apart, sit your hips back, thread your left arm underneath your right, and bring your head down to the mat or to the blanket. And rest your right arm just above your left. Settling in. At this point in your life, what is calling your heart? What are you feeling pulled towards? We can find ourselves pushing through things or really white knuckling this need to do or create something. And if we let that go and we allow ourselves to reflect on what feels exciting right now, what's calling me, what does my heart really desire, we might start to find that life begins to flow for us. And so here, as you breathe and as you connect to sensation, let those whispers come to you. What are you feeling called towards? Can you give into gravity just a little bit more? And we'll take our 3 breaths here. Inhale and exhale. Fully into the belly, the sides of the ribs, the back of the body. And release. 3rd one. And when you're ready to come out, find your right hand on the mat, press down into it. And bring yourself up. You can gently transition off of your knees, your shins onto your seat. And here we'll go into Dragonfly, also known as Upavista Konasana. So Dragonfly is the yin name. Move my things out of the way. And take your legs out wide. And if you have some kind of pulling tension when you're here, you could place small pillows underneath your knees. And if you're working on just a lift through the spine, you might find that leaning forward just a tad already starts to give you sensation through the inner thighs. If you have more room to come down, I'm going to take a block with me. You could come to a really leaned forward position, hinging from the hips. And then you could bring your forehead to a block or to a bolster or even to the ground. Know that if you have a bolster, you're welcome to place it vertically, so from your pubic bone up along the stomach, and you could turn your head to one side. And I'll let you know when we're half through so you can turn your head to the other side.
As you choose your position for dragonfly, you might notice that you feel some rounding through the back. If that's the case, lift up and then lengthen through the spine just a little bit more. If that means you need to stay higher up, that's fine. And we want to arrive in a place where we do feel some sensation. But I would say it's about mild to medium, knowing that as we stay, it'll grow and it'll get a little spicier. When you feel like you found the starting place for your dragonfly, settle in with your breath. And for this posture, I invite you to be with what is, along with the exploration of what it is to surrender. Really feeling everything that you're experiencing. Making yourself available to surrendering into not only gravity and into this posture, but into the flow of the breath. We're about halfway, so if your head is turned to one side, you can turn it to the other. Dragonfly is one of those poses where you might notice that you start to unpin in your fascia and you're able to come closer to the ground. If that's the case, just gently slide things out from underneath you. Aim to move very slowly and as little as possible if you're making adjustments. What are you willing to surrender? Let's take 3 closing breaths here. You're welcome to sigh out of the mouth anytime we do these breaths. When it's time to come up for you, go real slow. Use the arms to press yourself up. Pressing yourself up.
Sitting back, bring your hands underneath your knees and pull the knees up. Maybe bring your feet towards the mat and come into Egg Asana or Humble Yogi. Might actually feel better to elongate the neck here. Lift the chest. Next, we'll go into frog pose, and I'll set you up with the blocks. You can, of course, do this with pillows and with bolsters. For this practice, I'll show it with blocks. So the way I'm going to set up my blocks is one, the medium height here to catch my head, and then one on the lowest setting because these blocks are a little thicker. So what will happen is this block here will go between the shoulder blades and this one will catch my head. And as you lean back, you'll catch the middle of your back. Yeah. And then the head will fall back on the other block. So I like to take a Baddha Konasana variation here. If you are a little high up, you might want to support underneath your knees. And know you can also take your legs long. Okay, so whatever you want to do with your legs is fine as long as it feels grounding for your pelvis. And as I'm shifting around, I'm noticing that butterfly legs doesn't actually feel like the move for me. So I'm going to extend my legs. Now the option here is that you can have your arms in goalpost for a little bit more opening through the chest. And if you feel comfortable here on the blocks, you can settle in. If you need to make any other adjustments or shifts, go ahead and do that. And you have the option to soften your gaze and close down your eyes if that feels right for you. Are you willing to give a little bit more of your weight to the prop, the block behind the heart? Do you have the tendency of lifting away from support? What's your comfort level with receiving support and meeting the moment just as it is? And I read a quote from Neil David Walsh stating that life isn't about discovering who we are, but it's really about creating ourselves. I love this idea of reflecting on what it is we want to create and who we hope to be. And if we think of our highest self guiding the way, we get a really clear roadmap for how we most deeply in our hearts really want to show up. So this might be a place where you can reflect on, what does the heart want to create, and who are you at your highest? And is there space in your life for you to bring in more of those qualities? Are you still breathing? Let's breathe our final 3 breaths here to close out the posture. Go ahead and roll over to one side when you're ready. If your feet are in Baddha Konasana, use your hands to bring your inner thighs together and then roll over to one side. Slowly come off the blocks. You can use your bottom arm to rest on as a pillow. Then you'll just shift the blocks away from where they are and roll onto your back. Here we'll take a yin posture for the outsides of the hips, working the lateral line. And so you can either take a figure 4, thread the needle, and you're welcome to stay here if you already feel opening in the outer hip, or you could bring the shape in. So, of course, there's some activity in this posture. The other option is you could take eagle legs. Sometimes I call them chicken legs. I'm not sure where I got that from. Where you cross the knees, and then you can just hold on to the knees here and hold the shape in towards you. This will usually go a little further down into the glute. It's up to you. Choose the one you're going with. Make sure you know which leg is on top so that when we go to the second side, you know which one that is for you. The trick here is relaxing through the ankle of the bottom leg and the toes as much as you can there. Relaxing around the neck and the shoulders, the jaw. So the lateral line runs along the same channels as the gallbladder meridian in Chinese medicine. And when this meridian is out of balance, we can lean into worry or frustration, irritation quite easily. And so when we work with this meridian and this line, we may feel moments of slight agitation in the body, and see if that does happen for you, can you just utilize the breath? Connecting with the exhale to help you release. Notice what sensations are emerging and where. Let's use these next 3 breaths to rinse out sensation, settle into this new space we're creating. Slowly let go of your legs if they're in towards you. Let the legs unwind, come down into the mat. And let's just pause here for a moment. Feet on the mat, knees up. Sometimes there's little shifts that happen in the body when we come out of a posture. What's happening for you? We'll take the other side when you're ready. Just making sure you're taking the other leg on top. Either figure 4, maybe it's thread the needle, or it's this chicken leg thing that's actually in yin called shoelace, reclined shoelace. It just came back to me. If If you took thread the needle on one side, then take thread the needle on the other, and same thing for shoelace. And as you arrive in the posture, let go in the bottom knee. So many times that bottom leg is still holding and feeling like it needs to be involved. Check in, can you relax behind the knee, down into the ankle, down into the toes? And then move into stillness. If you get to a point in a posture when you feel like, wow, I just really cannot be still, check in with where that feeling is in your body and just rest your attention there. You don't need to change anything. You don't even need to come out of the posture. Bring your awareness to what part of you feels impatient, feels uneasy. Just stay with it. So when we are balanced along the gallbladder meridian, there's an ability within us to trust, to relax into life. We usually experience a greater amount of patience with ourselves, with others, with life as it is. And so with this new moon practice, as we're calling in what we want to create and who we see ourselves as and who we hope to be, can we meet that with patience, with trust that it's unfolding, with grace? Breathe into what you're feeling. Three nourishing breaths. Slowly let go of your legs if they're in your hands. Unravel the legs. Bring your feet down. And you could knock your knees in here and shimmy your feet out wide. Maybe hands on your belly. Become the observer of what's changing and what's transforming within you. So we'll take our final pose, waterfall, or legs up the wall. So if you're really close to a wall and it's not going to take much for you to scoot up against it, you could do that, bum to the wall, legs up the wall. Or if you want to stay where you are to be as minimal in your movements as possible, then you can still get the full benefits of the practice. And what you'll do is press down into your feet, reach for the block. When you press into your feet, lift your hips just enough to slide the low setting of the block underneath your sacrum. And then first draw your knees up. Make sure it feels like you're even and stable. And then you can extend your legs up towards the sky. Arms can be down by your side. So sometimes the tailbone tips up when we do this. That might just be a sign that there's a little bit of extra contraction in your low abdominals. So just soften, soften, soften through the low abdominals and let your legs dangle from the sky. Feel free to do what feels right with your eyes, with your gaze. Your legs will be suspended in space, so no need to worry too much about where they need to be or if they need to be bent or where the alignment of them is. This is about the feeling of heading down into your pelvis and allowing the legs to really just pour into the hip sockets. You might notice the legs shifting and twitching, toes going. That is a prime example of the unsticking of your fascia and the new space that you're creating in your body. So as we're in waterfall here, receive the nourishment that comes along with your legs getting to take a break, your heart being supported here in this posture by the fact that it doesn't have to pump so much blood towards the legs.
And so the idea here is that we end with a posture that is deeply restorative. And in that way we connect with where the moon is and what it's inviting us into. We are a part of nature. Our body is intrinsically connected to the cycles of the moons. And so this is a time for us to also rest before we begin to cultivate that which we've gotten clear on, that we want to bring forth. Final 3 breaths. Slowly bend your knees. And then one by one, you can take the feet down towards the mat. Press into your feet just enough to slide the block out from underneath you. Place it off to the side. And bring your hips back down to the mat. So before you straighten your legs, just let the pelvis settle, especially the sacrum here. And as you feel ready, you can extend one leg and then the other into Shavasana. Final resting pose. If you feel like your shoulders are drawing up towards the back of the neck, then just lift your heart and draw them down. And then let your palms face up. As you close your eyes down, melt into your mat and into the surface that you're on. Surrender your breath so that your body breathes you. Imagine you could soften your mind. And allow this Shavasana to be an act of surrender and of receptivity. Nothing for you to do, so much space for you to be.
slowly come back into your body. Become aware of your feet, soles of your feet. And the palms of your hands. Feel the life force, the prana, coursing through you. And whenever you feel like you're ready to come back, you can wiggle your toes and your fingertips and deepen your breath. Eventually rolling over to your left side, your yin side. Taking a beat there. And when you're ready, press yourself up to a seated position. Feel into your body, to your heart. Notice the temperament of the mind after your practice. And I encourage you to take some time to journal now as well, and to reflect back onto the page what it is that you're feeling inspired to create in your life, what's pulling you. Who do you want to be if the process of life is to create ourselves? Who are you creating? And what's next? What's wanting to emerge? What are you desiring? You can take some time to journal that out. And as always, thank you for joining me in this practice. Namaste.